Hi.
Shout out to Jay Moore. How about that? Are we on this? Are we good? Are we live?
Hello. Is
We
it
working?
live?
All right,
on
here
the
we go.
YouTube.
Bleck and Abdalla, we're on YouTube live. Thanks for coming out. How about this? We're at the Miller Lite Midway. We're having a great time getting ready for the NFL draft. It's the Miller Lite Chicago Bears draft party.
Smattering of applause.
It's also brought to you by Revolution Solar and Ticketmaster. Abdalla, how about this? The Chicago Bears are picking 9 tonight. Will they stay there? Players still on the board when the Bears get to that spot. There's a lot of buzz around Jalen Carter earlier today, whether or not the defensive tackle from Georgia will be there.
See, I thought this when Mike Greenberg joined Waddle and Sylvie, that there's a little too much smoke. A little too much smoke. Like, you know the Brian Windhorst thing where he's pointing at the sky and he's like, why would he say that? To me, it's like, why is there so much smoke around Jalen Carter now? Because now we're seeing things about maybe teams are willing to trade up for Jalen Carter. Like everything that you heard in the last month, just men in black it from your brain. Just use the little thing and just like, nope, everybody's coming in. Bryce Young is going to be the number 1 pick. And then however the dominoes fall, teams still don't know what they're going to do. Sometimes teams don't know what they're going to do until right before they turn in that card. So anything can happen. All the possibilities are there for the Bears at 9.
You know, and that's what's so exciting about tonight. This is a huge night in Bears history, right? Like the way this offseason has gone, Ryan Poles making the decision to trade out of the number 1 spot. DJ Moore is now your star wide receiver, and the Bears move back to 9. Just because you're at 9, it doesn't mean that the possibilities of landing a star player are out the window. You know, like, and that's why I find this to be exciting. Now, if we had the number 1 pick, would it be as exciting? Yeah, it absolutely would be. But what could happen tonight is the chips that fall in front of the Bears could dictate and allow the Bears to take advantage of this situation. I think that's what I'm finding really interesting about this entire draft cycle is that we know the quarterbacks at the top of the board. Bryce Young will go 1. That's what the betting markets have suggested for the last couple of weeks. We know at number 2, it is likely that a defensive player gets selected at that point, even though you mentioned smoke with Jalen Carter. There has been smoke around other quarterbacks going to the 2nd spot as well, namely Will Levis. And I think that's where 2, 3, and 4, how it plays out with the other quarterbacks, could certainly play into the hands of the Chicago Bears. If quarterbacks go in the first 5 picks, if all 4 of them go, that means good football players are being passed upon that the Bears will have a shot at when they get to 9. So I think all of the options are pretty exciting. Jalen Carter obviously is a player that heading into the draft, he was the number 1 prospect before he got into trouble off the field and the combine situation and then also his pro day. But then also when you look at other guys, Tyree Wilson, you look at the run on offensive linemen, that might be helpful as well for the Chicago Bears, right? If they're able to maximize this spot and get a couple of really good offensive line players, I mean, it really endless possibilities for the Bears tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And here's what I think can happen, right? Best case scenario for the Bears, 4 quarterbacks go early. Maybe a cornerback or 2 goes early. Whatever's not a top defensive player, because here's how I look at it for the Bears at 9. I think that if one of the top defensive players like Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson fall, they're going to take one of those 2 players at 9. I also think that if those players are gone and all of the offensive linemen are still there, the Bears might look to trade back because there's still value at maybe trading back to 15 or 16 because some of your favorite, offensive linemen, whether it's Skoronski or whether it's Wright out of Tennessee, those guys will still be there if you trade back. Now, if there's something crazy happens and, one of the top offensive linemen goes like Paris Johnson goes early to someone like maybe Arizona or something like that, or Arizona trades out, anything can happen. Now we're hearing people might trade up for Jalen Carter, so he might be gone, but that might help you.
Yeah.
It might solve a problem for you because we don't know what the front office is thinking as far as Jalen Carter goes. They were very kind of coy about it, about what they think and whether or not he fits Matt Eberflus's hits principles and all that kind of stuff. So maybe the problem is just out of their hands and he's gone before 9, but that means that maybe a guy like Tyree Wilson falls to you. And to me, Chris, we watch a lot of college football, and you made a comment about how there's still talent left at 9.
Sure.
And, we hear from fans all the time, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to get talent at 15 or 16. But those same fans will call in when a 4th-round player is a bust and is like, why wasn't this 4th-round player good? And it's like, well, you said there's no talent after the 19th pick.
Right? There's a lot of talent.
There's talent through like round 4, depending on the position you're going for. So I think that maybe they look to trade back and try to get more picks between 9 and 53. Something in that early second round. You trade back to 15 or 16. You get a pick early in that second round. Maybe you can get some more players because right now they've got 10 picks. Will they end the weekend with 10 players? Who knows? I think they might look to add more players.
I'm guessing more.
I think
right?
so. There's
it's a young
so many
team.
holes on this team.
You got to keep adding, right?
And you also have to look at the contract situation of some of these guys coming up. Guys like Jalen Johnson, who's up at the end of the year, guys like Darnell Mooney, who's up at the end of the year, guys like Chase Claypool, who's up at the end of the year.
Sure.
You gotta either re-sign those guys next year or draft their replacements so you don't have this problem. I don't think you're gonna sign both Claypool and Mooney to extra deals. So maybe you look to draft a wide receiver if you trade back like Jackson Smith and Jigba if he's still there at 15 or 16, if you should move back. There's talent. This draft is deep when it comes to some of the offensive line positions. If you wanted depth at the center position, you can get it there. If you want edge rusher, there's depth there. You don't have to do it in the first round.
Shout out to everyone that's here in person at the Miller Lite Chicago Bears draft party. We're at the Miller Lite Midway here at Soldier Field. This is the way it's kind of set up tonight at Soldier Field. This is a fantastic event. Not only here at the Midway where we're hanging out, drinking Miller Lite, but Waddle and Sylvie are on the opposite side of the stadium. They're on the east side of the stadium right now. They're with Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer. You can listen to that on the ESPN Chicago app. We have full draft coverage right there in the ESPN Chicago app. So if you're looking for Waddle and Sylvie, for Joniak and Thayer, they're right there in the app. David Kaplan is also here. He's in the south end zone at the Dr. Pepper Lounge.
Someone bring him a jacket.
He's cold. He's chilly. Cap is chilly tonight. He's there. You can watch Cap on YouTube as well. So if you go to our YouTube page, that's where we're at, Bleck and Abdalla. So shout out. I already see a lot of long streaming Twitchers in our YouTube live right now. So shout out to all the people who have made their way to the YouTube live tonight. If you want to watch us for the next couple of hours as we break down the draft, you can hang out and watch us. Cap is also on YouTube, so you can check Cap out. He's in the south end zone. And then, like I said, Waddle and Sylvie, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, they're on the east side of the stadium in the United Club, and they have conversation coverage of the draft as well on the ESPN Chicago app. So we've got you covered. It's our own mega cast. I feel like we're ESPN National now with the College Football National Championship.
Oh, man.
We have our mega cast. So not only that, here in the Miller Lite Midway, we also have Jay Moore from the Cap and J Hood Morning Show with us. He will be DJing in between our interviews and our conversation. So Jay Moore is here with us. Charlie Bevins is sitting here with us. He has a type 5.
Type 5,
He
Charlie?
wants to give a type 5 to the audience.
Today.
Tell me a joke. Tell me a joke.
All right, thank you,
Good
Charlie.
job,
Well,
Charlie.
there you go. There's Charlie. So we have the whole crew
I'm
rocking
so
here,
sorry.
and we're gonna have a great time here on YouTube Live. So we're hanging out, and thanks for finding us on YouTube Live. Bleck and Abdalla weeknights, SPM 1000. So yeah, the NFL draft is here. One of my favorite nights of the entire sports year.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we had this conversation on the station the other day. Is like, how can you enjoy the NFL draft that much? Remember, we were going back and forth with Cap on this.
Yeah.
And to me, it's endless possibility. I also love nerding out over all the draft bios of the players.
Mm-hmm.
I also love trying to figure out the like fit and needs for teams. So like, not only tonight will I watch because we're here and we enjoy the NFL draft, but like tomorrow I will be glued to the TV.
Oh yeah.
On Saturday, I will be glued to the final rounds of the draft. To me, the most fun we have doing sports talk radio is talking about the NFL draft. And so earlier today, we did get some news in the NFL. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are going to come to an agreement on a deal. Lamar Jackson will stay with Baltimore. When you look at quarterback-needed teams, it seemed as if there weren't many teams that were in on Lamar because they didn't want to pay the price it was for someone who is proven a former MVP. Why? Because there's quarterbacks in this draft. And I think that's where here in the top 10, things get really interesting. We know the betting markets have suggested that it's Bryce Young that will go number 1 to Carolina. After that point, 2, 3, 4, and question mark, where do the other quarterbacks fall? Because we mentioned the smoke with Jalen Carter and how it seems as if there's a lot of that out there. And I wonder if that plays into the hands of the Bears, or perhaps are they the ones creating the smoke?
Oh, yeah.
So someone gets a little trigger happy and they jump up to try and get ahead of the Bears at 9. So when you look at the quarterbacks, how do you see it falling after Young?
So I think, well, obviously Bryce Young is going to go number 1 to Carolina. And then I'm starting to think that Houston might not take a quarterback. But the problem with that is, okay,
they need one.
The problem is you need one. And it's hard to be that bad again, right? Like there's no guarantee that you're going to be in the number 2 slot again. Like you can maneuver your way up there. You can trade other picks and whatnot. But for them at 2, I think you have to take a quarterback. You have to take a swing there because your option is going to be C.J. Stroud. I don't think that Will Levis or Anthony Richardson are going to be that good right away, right? Like they're the more project guys. You know, like C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, they're more ready for the moment than I think those other 2 guys are. So I think it would be dumb if Houston didn't go quarterback there because you have the 2nd overall pick. Like you have to take it there. The Cardinals, if they trade out and someone wants and gets trigger happy, like you said, for Will Levis, then maybe they will at 3. I think Indianapolis also has to take a quarterback at 4. So I think you're getting at least 3, if not 4, in the first round. And then you look at maybe, you know, there's rumors that Tennessee might look to move up to that 3rd or 4th spot with Indianapolis. There's also the wild card of the idea that we've talked about it before of one of these teams. And this is what I said in relation to Lamar Jackson also.
Right.
Like if one of these teams didn't select a quarterback and Lamar Jackson was still available, right? I would say, oh, well, look at the Colts. Maybe they're trading for Lamar. Maybe the Texans. Maybe they're trading for Lamar. He seemed like he wanted to go to a team that was ready to win, though. Obviously, he signed with Baltimore. He signs the extension. He's going to be in Baltimore. But what if the Texans decide we don't like these guys? What if the Colts decide we don't want any of these guys? We're going to take a defensive player. We're going to take an offensive lineman, and we're just going to wait for Caleb Williams or Drake May next year. I think that option is still on the table for some of these teams. If a team like Tennessee gets itchy and wants to move up with Indianapolis, or they get itchy and want to move up with Arizona, then if 3 quarterbacks are taken before the Colts might look at Anthony Richardson and say, you know what? Not for me. I'll wait till next year and get my quarterback.
I think what's interesting is when we break down the prospects, right? I like how you listed out the options for the teams that need quarterbacks and the moves that they can make. Like to me, if you go back to the college football season, Bryce Young was the best. C.J. Stroud seems like the safest. Will Levis seems like the bust. And Anthony Richardson seems like the prospect
Wild
with
card.
the unbelievable ceiling that is a complete gamble, but it could totally pay off.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's the read. Now, could Levis turn out to be great? Certainly. To me, it's weird to go back to the college football season and see a guy that didn't really perform too well for a team that didn't have a good offense in the SEC. Kentucky, they're basically a defensive-led team in the SEC. And you look at the way that Bryce Young dominated in that conference, and he was just great. He was unbelievable. The problem with Bryce Young, though, is the size. And can a quarterback of his stature, because it's not necessarily just the height, it's also the fact that he barely weighs 200 pounds. That's not going to hold up throughout a 17-game schedule in the NFL.
They got creatine for that.
Well, I mean, think about it in this context. Justin Fields is tough. He is awesome. He doesn't make it through the entire season.
No.
He's pretty durable for the position for someone who runs that much. But my point being is it's hard to believe that Bryce Young is going to withstand an entire season, especially if he's on a bad team that struggles to protect the quarterback. He's going to get killed out there. So when you look at all of the different options, it is interesting that no one took a bite on Lamar Jackson. It felt like the entire time that the Ravens were calling his bluff. They got their way. They keep their quarterback at a price that they wanted to sign him at. And when you look at the quarterbacks that are coming out, it will play into the Bears' hand if teams do believe that these four individuals can change their franchises, because that means good football players will start to pass and fall and slip, and the Bears sitting at 9 can take advantage.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for, right? Because if you look at the teams that don't need quarterbacks, Arizona, Seattle, Detroit, Vegas, and Atlanta are those four teams that will probably not. That's changed. Like when we were talking, 2 months ago, doing all of this prep, getting ready for today.
Sure.
We were talking about, hey, well, Vegas isn't set on anyone. I mean, Desmond, you're running out there with Desmond Ridder. Okay, if that's what you choose to do, would not be me. That's why you maybe you.
What are you doing?
Well, that's why you look at one of these teams. If Will Levis starts to fall, and Tennessee wants to trade up for another Matt Ryan or another Tannehill, and that's what they want from Will Levis, then fine, that's what you get. Go ahead and trade up and move up to Seattle's spot or move up to Detroit's spot if you want to. But also some of these teams, Seattle's done a ton of homework on Jalen Carter. It scares a lot of Bears fans that Jalen Carter might be on the other side of Justin Fields 2 games every year for the foreseeable future, right? So Vegas, maybe Atlanta's rumored to take Bijan Robinson. So, if that's what you're going to do, that's fine. That's other players that the Bears aren't looking at, right? I'm looking at players that the Bears aren't looking at. And if all those quarterbacks go in the top 4 or 5, Tyree Wilson starts to look better. All these other teams start to look at, ones that aren't going to take quarterbacks or aren't going to take, maybe cornerbacks or a running back, maybe something like that. And then you look at the Bears and maybe hopefully they can take advantage at 9 or trade back.
It's Bleck and Abdalla here on ESPN 1000 and the ESPN Chicago app. Each night, 6 to 8 on ESPN 1000. Tonight, exclusively on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube page, you can see us live right here from the Miller Lite Midway. We're having a great time. So this is how the evening's going to work. In about 10 minutes, we will be joined here at the desk by Justin Jones, Bears defensive end. So we will talk to Justin in about 10 minutes here at the Miller Lite Midway. Throughout the evening, in between our conversations with Bears players and former Bears players, Israel Adonijah is here.
Yeah.
He's going to join us tonight. Really excited for that conversation. If you listen to the Cap and J Hood morning show, weekday mornings on ESPN 1000 from 7 to 10 a.m., you hear Jay Moore on the board. Tonight, we have him here in person, DJing throughout the evening.
On the ones and twos.
At the Miller Lite Midway. So now we go to Jay Moore. He'll give you some music. We'll be back in 10 minutes to talk with Justin Jones. It's Bleck and Abdalla. Hit it, Jay Moore.
Ooh, right to the post.
Hello. When are they going to put you guys on the greenie slot?
Soon, probably. How you doing?
You guys get it all the time.
Good day. Good day.
Someone that's a book
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Hey, is Arm coming out too? Yes, they're Kansas State. Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you. Quick question for you. Is Justin supposed to be starting right at 6:30, or do you guys have some lead-in time? Okay. Okay. I know he's in the building. I was told he was on his way, but okay. It's not like TV where it's like okay. Perfect. Hey, what's up, Jazz? I'm looking around for you guys, and I'm like,
Oh, were you looking for us?
Hey, you sound great on the
Oh, yeah. Good. Have Andrew Delaney.
There it is. Hi, Greg Carpenter. How you doing?
See you in the back room.
I saw you in the digital content call.
Yeah, hey, we be out here.
Getting a little appearance in the end, getting a shout out. Podcast. It's great. It's great stuff. Keep it up, man.
She's like wandering through like the fields and meadows, like crying, and it was really sad. Like, oh, I could say that my life was waiting, you know, and right, and that is the girl, and then the end of the video, she finds like all these other like dirty kids in building costumes, and they're all like dancing around like the field together. So for me, my hope is that like when you're on that digital content call, that you've been out there on your own trying to do all this, trying to figure this out, that when you're like, oh shit, there's all these other nerds like me who are like trying to figure this out, who think about, you know, what, you know, right.
All right, we're live in the Miller Lite Midway. It's Bleck and Abdalla here on YouTube Live. Here on usually on ESPN 1000 each weeknight, but we're here on YouTube Live, and now we're joined by Justin Jones, defensive end for the Chicago Bears. How about that? What's up, Justin?
How you doing?
We're good. We're good. So today, obviously, draft day, a big day for a lot of young men coming out of college, going into the NFL. What was your draft day experience like?
I was actually I went bowling with my family, and then I didn't think I was going to get drafted that day, so I went ahead and got in the shower. And when I got home, and then I got a call from LA, and they told me that they were drafting me in the 3rd round with the 89th pick, and it was up from there.
Yeah, to the Chargers. And
Yeah.
when you saw the name, like, listen, neither of us could play professional sports,
Mm-hmm.
but I think all of us when we're kids, we think about what would that feel like to know a professional team drafts you. And like,
Right.
you know, when you're little, you're like, man, I wish the whatever team, like I wish the Chicago Bears would say my name. When the Chargers called your name, what were your thoughts?
I was like, man, I've never been to LA before, Never been to LA, but this is the first time, and they brought me over there, and it's a beautiful place over there. I can't even lie to you, but it was really just a dream come true, man. Like I didn't really even care where I went personally. I just wanted to go.
Right.
I just wanted to have that experience and have that memory, so I could tell my kids when they see the video, they be like, "Man, that was my dad."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's those first few weeks like when you're getting all your stuff together, you're moving, you're getting your family ready, everybody's, calling you, congratulating you, your phone's blowing up, everything like that. What are those first couple weeks like for a new player in the NFL?
It doesn't even feel real, honestly. Like you don't even believe it at first. You just kind of go on with the flow first week. But once you settle in, you find you a place to stay. You meet a couple of the players on the team, make friends, get familiar with the area, and you start grinding again like you were in college.
17 games last year for the Chicago Bears, 52 tackles, 3 sacks. The defense at times, it struggled last year. But I think that's a part of the excitement tonight is that Bears fans can sense that things are about to turn. Do you guys feel that in the building, that you're on the beginning part of this thing turning around to be a successful franchise in the NFL?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's going to be some fun time to be a Bears fan right now. I'll tell you that right now. It's going to be it's a real good time to be a Bears fan.
Yeah. And, walking through the stadium, do you see it? I mean, we showed up. I got here around 4 o'clock, and there was a line for the parking lot down the street and around. Fans were waiting outside to get in this place.
Yeah.
I mean, this event is incredible. As a player, you've got to feel the excitement from Bears fans that everyone's just giving you guys love, hoping that things turn for this team.
Yeah, I mean, we're working to get better every day, and every year is just a stepping stone to get to where we want to be. And obviously tonight we're going to get close to where we need to be. We're going to add some pieces to the team, that can really help us out early on. And I'm excited to see who we grab.
Sure.
Who are some of your favorite players to watch? Obviously, you're busy on Sundays, but if you do watch any college football on Saturdays, who are some of your favorite players to watch?
I mean, if we're just looking at the draft and who picks available right now, I'm really a big fan of Paris Johnson right now. I like Willie Anderson. Perfect fits for our team.
Sure.
Stuff like that. So those 2 players right there.
Oh, Brett, you're a defensive end. Break down Will Anderson.
Tackle.
What do you see on tape?
Defensive tackle. But yeah, I'm a defensive tackle. But Will Anderson, he's got a lot of tools in his toolbox, man. So when he's rushing, you can see that he's polished and stuff like that. So coming into the league, just getting him, I guess helping him with the knowledge of the game, that's just going to even make him a better player.
Absolutely. And so when you come into a new system like Matt Eberflus's system, and how hard is that to get acclimated to for a newer player coming from college or even coming from a different team? What's it like getting used to a newer system that you might not be as familiar with, or the terminology and that kind of stuff?
Honestly, our team is really young, so any new player coming in right now is going through things that these guys just went to. So he has good guys like Jaquan and Kyler, guys who came in and played early in the scheme and and played well. So you can just talk to guys like that. The adjustment, it's not hard. You come in with a good attitude and you come in with great effort. You're gonna fit right in.
I've listened to Matt Eberflus explain the HITS principle. I don't know if I understand the HITS principle. Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of it is like effort, get to the ball, be smart.
Yeah, hustle, intensity, turnovers, and situations.
Be smart in situations.
Smart, yeah.
And I feel like at times last season, even though there were only 3 wins, you guys did maximize what you had on the roster. I mean, it's always tough to be in a situation where the previous regime, the previous attempt didn't go well, right? So last year, personally, how did you feel in a situation where clearly after the halfway point, the playoffs are out of the picture, and now it's like, let's just go out there and be the best player that you can be?
I mean, you go out there every day trying to be the best player you can be, but I don't know if you watched the game, but a lot of the games we lost were one-score games.
Mm-hmm.
They were within 7 points, 3 points. So it's not like we're not close. We're close. You know what I'm saying? So we're adding pieces to the puzzle just to help us win those 3 points, those 7 points. So just imagine if we got those points in those games from you. What were we? 3 and 12? What were we?
Yeah.
About 3 and 13.
Yeah,
3 and 13, something like
14,
that.
Yeah.
So literally 8 of those games were one-score games. So if we turn those around, our season goes totally different.
So, Justin, one of the things that we talked about on our show nightly is that, we saw that and we felt like this team is close. And I think a part of the conversation is teams that are bad, the next year you don't really have a chance at the playoffs. I think our debate that we've had with listeners and different fans is that you guys can turn it around quickly because of what you said. Many of those games, it was within one score. It was one play that went bad. It was a fumble that was ripped out and ran back. It was a bad play here. Like very minimal mistakes. You guys weren't getting blown out of games.
It's all about experience. And, even though that time was hard, when we kept losing those games by one score, a couple points here, a couple points there, a play here, a play there, like the experience that the young guys had, while we were playing those games and they're seeing the way we're losing those games, it's not going to happen again. So those times are valuable, especially for guys like Jaquan and Kyler, so it's times are valuable. Jack Sanborn, young guys who are playing a lot of reps, like that time is valuable. So next year when we're in those situations again, we know it's not going to happen because they've already went through stuff like that.
Now, originally, when we were coming into tonight, the Bears had the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Right. And it's rare that a team that has a quarterback has the number 1 overall pick. Like Justin Fields is the future of the Bears. What's something that we don't know about Justin Fields? Like we see him, on Instagram and that kind of stuff like that. But what's something that fans don't know about Justin Fields that you've gotten to know?
I mean, he's not going to BS you. I tell you that. He keeps everything 100. He tells you, what needs to be worked on, what things are expected of you as a player and stuff like that. And, the guys really respond well to him, and it's cool to see.
Because it seems like he's very calm.
For
like
sure.
in the huddle on the sideline, very calm. Does he ever show more, like once you get into the locker room and in practice and stuff, is there ever more emotion than we see that's on camera and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's a cool guy, for sure. He's funny. He's on the game with us sometimes and stuff like that, and he's just a real cool guy. But, when it comes to football, it's a level of seriousness you got to have, especially for, you playing with a team like this and you're trying to start the ship the right way. So it's a level of seriousness you got to have, and he understands that. So when you guys see him like that, it's the amount of focus he has. He's just real focused on his job and everything has to be done. So,
all right, Justin, give us the inside info. If Jalen Carter is there at 9, did the Bears take Jalen Carter?
I don't see why not.
He's a stud, isn't he?
No, he's good. He's for sure good, for sure. Generational talent.
Could you imagine playing alongside someone like that in the middle and what that would do for your game?
Honestly, we have a lot of good guys in this draft. That playing beside, that'd be pretty cool to play with. So, like I said, I'm just ready to see what we get.
Yeah. It does seem like the defensive line in general, defensive end, defensive tackle, it's pretty stacked in this draft. So no matter what they do at 9 or if they end up taking someone later, like there is a lot of depth at that position. Have you noticed something in college? Because we've seen it, kind of the NFL kind of change. Like there's fast wide receivers at every school, at every college. Is there something about the defensive line and the way it's being played in college that's getting guys more prepared for the NFL? That's why we're seeing more depth at that position every year?
I don't think it's college that has to do with it. I think it's them coming out of high school. You see a lot of players, when they're rushing and doing one-on-one pass rush, at camps and 24/7 and ESPN camps, stuff like that, and the moves they're working and the difficulty of the move that they're actually pulling off, like at that age, it's really crazy, So I wouldn't say it started in college. I would say it started in high school for them. So
be our expert draft analysis witness here. When you break down the quarterbacks at the top of the draft board, when you watch Bryce Young, the discussion around Bryce Young is he's too small. But we all watch him in college, and he did incredible things at Alabama. What do you think when you see Bryce Young?
Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I think Kyler Murray's pretty good.
Yeah.
They said Lamar Jackson was a running back. So it's a lot of things people are saying, like, oh, he can't do this, he can't do that. Football is football. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how fast you are. It doesn't matter how strong you are. Football is football, and it's an IQ game. So if you know ball, then you can ball. That's how I see it.
Is he the best quarterback that you saw last year in college football?
I think he's one of the best. I wouldn't say he's the best. I think he's one of the best. It's like
just
one
in case something happens,
know,
right? Just in case.
So CJ Stroud is an option from Ohio State. We were talking earlier about Will Levis from Kentucky.
Anthony
the thing
Richardson.
that concerns Anthony Richardson. What's crazy is Will Levis is someone that didn't really have top level success.
Yeah.
And he's got an arm, but the measurables aren't crazy. Anthony Richardson, the measurables are crazy. His completion percentage at Florida was really bad, but there's potential there. So how do you balance someone that seems like a finished product or closer to it, or someone that could be a complete project on the next level?
I mean, you really just got to break down the film and break down the player and how they think. the draft process is really, really, it's really, really detailed. And that's why it takes so long to figure out, who they're going to take in the draft. And when they make that decision, a lot of information went into that pick. So that's why the process is so long. And, it's so detail oriented because you have to really go in depth and find out how a player works and who he is around the building and the type of work ethic he has and the type of person he is off the field. Like all that stuff matters because when it comes down to the X's and O's, you have to know what type of personality you're dealing with. And the ceiling is a person never put a ceiling on a man, but a man can put a ceiling on himself. So if he's not willing to put the work in and stuff like that, then obviously you're capping yourself off at that point.
My philosophy with Bryce Young has always been, well, he didn't have a problem throwing over guys and seeing over guys in college. Why is he going to have a problem? It's not like you guys have growth spurts from college to the NFL.
Right.
So I don't see – he didn't have a problem scoring a ton of points, winning a Heisman Trophy, doing everything at Alabama. I don't see why he would have a problem when it comes to the NFL. I know you guys are the best of the best from college, so the talent level is obviously different. But as far as the size goes, there's really not that much difference from going from college to the pros.
Every draft pick has a con to him. There's no 100% perfect draft pick for anybody. Like everybody has something, that they say is, oh, he needs to work on this, or he's too short, or he didn't score high on this test, or he didn't run as fast as this quarterback over here. Like it's always something. At the end of the day, it's all about how do you play ball, and then how do you see the X's and O's.
Justin Jones, defensive end for the Chicago Bears with Bleck and Abdalla here. We're on YouTube Live. We're also live in the Miller Lite Midway here at Soldier Field. All right, Justin, I think we will get a reaction from the fans when you talk about this. Aaron Rodgers is now a New York Jet. Your thoughts? Aaron Rodgers is no longer in the division.
I wish he would have stayed one more year.
Oh, one more year.
I wish he would have stayed one more year.
I like that. You want him.
You wanted revenge, right? I can see that, especially from a defensive player, as someone who tries to get to the quarterback on every single play. You wanted the revenge. I mean, there's still a chance that you guys could play him again at some point.
I wanted to play him twice.
That's fantastic. I mean, when you look at the division now, there's a lot of talk about the Lions in this offseason. They had a improved year. They still missed the playoffs. Minnesota, we both think will take a step back. We also don't really like their quarterback much. When you guys sit in the division and you look around at the competition and you look at overall the NFC North compared to the rest of the National Football League, it's a hell of a division, but there's opportunity for the Chicago Bears.
I think when you look at the schedule, when you see those 17 games, it don't matter who's there, who we're playing, we always have opportunity to win. And that's how I see it. I think it's wide open. It was wide open last year. When they said it was a rebuild year, it was wide open then too. And it's wide open this year as well. So, we're going to go work and we're going to come at those teams.
Yeah, because a couple of those divisional games were one-score games like we talked about earlier. Is there a team outside of the division that when you see on a schedule you circle? I'm not trying to create any bulletin boards, but is there a team that you circle when you see on the schedule that's not in the division? You're like, that's a team I want to face.
I think if you look at the schedule and you look at my career history, then you probably already know.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite place to play that's not Soldier Field in the National Football League?
Green Bay.
Green Bay. What's the atmosphere like as a visitor that heads there and you know that you're the hated rival? What's it like? They hate us.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Every bit of it.
Because we work with Tom Waddle, who's wide receiver for the Bears for a long time in the 90s, and he said that he would go there. They would be mooning him. They'd be throwing stuff at the bus. Is it still that level of hatred that you get from them and then you give it right back?
After we beat them this year at their home field, it's gonna be like that again.
I love that.
What's funny of what Adam said is that Tom Wallace said that like even the little old ladies, like the 80-year-olds, they'll see the bus drive by and they'll give the middle finger to the Bears bus.
It's a sweet old lady,
right? It's crazy.
I love it.
You feed off the energy when you go into an opposing stadium like that, right?
I love being the bad guy.
That's great.
All right, Justin, as we wrap things up here, what are you looking forward to with the Bears? The 9th pick, a lot of excitement. It's going to happen within the next hour or so here at Soldier Field. What are your thoughts on the rest of the evening?
I'm just ready to see who we get. Just like the rest, just like everybody else. I'm ready to see who we pick.
So are we. Thank you for stopping by. We really appreciate it. Give it up for Justin Jones, defensive end for your Chicago Bears.
Defensive tackle.
All right, Jay Moore is going to take over for 10 minutes. Bleck and Abdalla will be back.
We're gonna do about 40 minutes.
Everyone, go make some noise. All right, let's get it going. Here we go.
The comments on the Green projects were fantastic. That was good stuff.
Jay Moore. Can you hear me, Jay Moore?
Hey, it's Bleck and Abdalla.
Hello.
Live from the Miller Lite Midway. It's our Miller Lite Chicago Bears draft party. Shout out to Miller Lite.
Come on.
Yeah, shout out to Miller Lite. Also, our partners of the event, Revolution Solar and Ticketmaster. It's Bleck and Abdalla. You can listen to us weeknights on ESPN 1000 from 6 to 8 p.m. Tonight, we are exclusively on YouTube Live. We're having this draft party with you. We're at Soldier Field. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube if you found us. We also have feeds. David Kaplan has a YouTube feed that's rolling right now. He's in the south end zone. Waddle and Sylvie, Jeff Joniak, and Tom Thayer, they're on the east side of the stadium in the United Club.
What is
so
this?
ESPN
We're on the
1000.
west side, right?
We're on the west side of the stadium, yeah.
The best side.
The best side, yes. So we are talking NFL draft. The NFL draft is about to start in Kansas City, and the Bears pick 9. So a lot of excitement here in the building. A lot of great fans here tuning in and tuning out here at the event. It's a fantastic event here at Soldier Field.
Yeah, it's great. There's tons of fans here, like you mentioned. I've seen every form of Bears jersey and retro jersey and authentic and all this kind of. There you go. There's the Army jersey. There's the Armed Forces jersey right there. The Peyton jersey. It's just personalized. What does that say? Abu Nasser? Abu Nasir? I love it. Shout out. That's great. That's awesome. So, yeah, there's tons of fans everywhere. We've got some people dressed up with pom-poms just walked in. This is the draft party right here. This is amazing. It's great. Can't wait for the Bears to be on the clock. We got to wait like 8 picks probably. And the draft is about to start here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And here at the draft party at the Miller Lite Midway, throughout the evening, Jay Moore from the Cap and J Hood morning show. He's DJing throughout the evening.
Woo!
So when we're not talking about the NFL draft, you will hear Jay Moore from the Cap and J Hood morning show. He'll be DJing throughout the evening. So shout out to Jay Moore playing the music here at the Miller Lite Chicago Bears draft party. All right, so Roger Goodell is set to start the draft within moments. Ooh. Carolina will be on the clock. When Carolina takes the time at 1, who's the player that you assume the Panthers will go with?
I got 2 things here, right? First of all, they know who they're going to pick. They've had since the Bears traded them the number 1 pick. Can't they just turn this in right now? Like, can't it just Goodell does he have to walk all the way back out backstage and then spend the 10 minutes and then come all the way back? What is going to change in the last month or so since we got the news that the Bears traded from 1 to 9 and got next year's first-round pick as well and a bunch of other stuff, DJ Moore and all that kind of stuff? But, like, shouldn't they just know? They should know by now. But I think it's going to be Bryce Young.
Well, I mean, you know how it is. And sometimes with the NFL draft, the NBA draft, sometimes you already know. Like, the commissioner starts the draft, and then, you know, you get the Schefter, you get the Woj. It's like, well, the pick is in. This is who it is. And Goodell
the
is like,
are leaning towards.
Goodell's opening the draft, and then like they already know who they're going to take. The heavy favorite for the first pick is Bryce Young.
Yes,
Bryce Young on the Carolina Panthers. What do you see there?
I mean, I don't think they're a very good team right now, right? So it's going to take them. Obviously, they just traded their best wide receiver to the Bears, so he's going to need some weapons as well. But he's by far the best quarterback in the draft. I watched all of his games at Alabama. Roll Tide. I feel like he is hands down everything that he can control. He's the best quarterback in the draft, right? He can control his progressions. He can control reading a defense. He can control his arm mechanics and everything else. The one thing he can't control is his size. He can't control how tall he is. He can't control how his frame is built. That's been the knock. And, you know, throughout the last, since the season ended and we started draft prep and got that first mock draft, you know, it's been up and down, whether it's going to be C.J. Stroud, whether it's going to be Bryce Young, whether it's going to be Anthony Richardson. We even saw some Will Levis there at number 1. This is, you know, after the Bears traded the pick. Like, obviously, when the Bears were looking, we got all the crazy conversation of, should the Bears trade Justin Fields and then draft Bryce Young? No, obviously they shouldn't, because any analyst that you would listen to would tell you that if Justin Fields was in this draft, he'd be going number 1.
Yeah.
That being said, Bryce Young's not a bad quarterback. He's he won a Heisman. He won a bunch of games at Alabama. Trust me, Bryce Young and the Alabama offense was not the reason that they lost to Tennessee this year and that they almost lost to Texas and they almost lost to Texas A&M. Like they weren't, that wasn't the reason, right? The reason was the defense let them down. He did everything possible on that field. He's great at reading defenses. He's great at deep throws. He's great at he doesn't like scrambling, but he can when he needs to. And you worry about his size and his frame if he does choose to, tuck the ball and run. But I think he's going to be great for the Panthers. I think it's just going to take some time and patience to build around him, especially because you traded away his best weapon in DJ Moore, and now he's a Bear, thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at this Bears team, as tonight's an incredible event here at Soldier Field. I mean, the field itself is packed with people. Here in the Miller Lite Midway, this is a packed venue. All over the stadium, we have events going on this evening as Roger Goodell walks to the podium. As now everyone gets the boo. Roger Goodell.
Boo.
Yes.
A smattering of boos.
Who's more hated, Roger Goodell or
yes.
Rob Manfred?
Roger Goodell.
You sure?
Rob Manfred saved baseball. What are you talking about?
How do you say baseball?
That's pitch clock. Hello.
Fast.
I'm not doing that.
Snappy and fast.
We're not doing those bits. Those are studio bits. Those
Charlie, they're not ready for
those
it.
aren't broadcast bits.
I feel like there's a percentage of sports fans who don't know who Rob Manfred is, whereas
That's
every
fair.
It's
sports fan
possible.
probably knows who Roger Goodell
Yeah,
is.
absolutely,
fair.
it's
That's
possible. But yeah, it's Roger Goodell getting booed probably in Kansas City right now.
See, they love it. They're hyping it up.
Opening up the draft.
He's self-aware now, and it's not as fun.
Right.
Like he knows that people boo him, and he feeds into it, and it's not as fun.
Absolutely. Carolina will be on the clock at 1. Houston at 2. They also need a quarterback, but there's a lot of talk about the Texans. They also have the 12th pick as well.
Yeah.
So the Texans, theoretically, if they played their cards right, they could get the best player at 2 and still take a quarterback at 12 and try and figure out their future.
I don't believe there'll be a quarterback at 12. I think people are going to start to get antsy. You're going to see a quarterback taken at 2. I believe, Charlie was telling me during the break that the odds for CJ Stroud to be taken number 2 overall, like minus 2,000 now?
Yeah, and
for him.
1, 2, and 3 right now you can't bet on FanDuel or DraftKings.
So there you
so
go.
It seems like that first 3 is decided.
I feel like because of that, you're going to see CJ Stroud go. You're not going to get a quarterback at 12, and you hope to not be in this situation again where you are in this situation picking number 2, right?
Right.
Like the Bears hope to not be the worst team in the NFL again and have the number 1 pick. They obviously traded back, but the Texans also, with all the picks that they have, having the first pick, now having the second pick now, and then having another pick at 12, hope to not be in this situation. And you can get a few players, with those first 2 picks that could set you up. CJ Stroud could be a good quarterback in the league. It might take him some time. They've got to build around him. But I think he's going to be the second pick. I don't see a chance that the Texans don't take a quarterback at 2. You have to. You have to.
Right. And so those are the first 2 options that we think that's how it will play out. Kansas City, the home for the draft. Right now, Patrick Mahomes talking to the fans as they introduce the draft. I mean, the introduction to the draft is going to be an hour long. I mean, Carolina on the clock. But wait, Goodell and his friends want to show.
It's going to be last call here, and they're going to be announcing the Bears pick.
So Arizona at 3. It's an interesting spot because the Cardinals have their quarterback for the future. Theoretically, they can move back. They could also take the best defensive player at that spot. There's a lot of situations for the Cardinals that they can kind of figure it out as we kind of look at the 3rd pick here in tonight's draft.
My philosophy is this. Unless you're getting an absolute haul for someone to move up to 3 and take their quarterback, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, there are a few blue chip players in this draft, and Will Anderson is at the top of the list defensively. And you have to take that to me. Him and Jalen Carter, before the off the field issues, were the 2 generational talents. And again, Will Anderson, a player who I've watched every single snap of at Alabama. That dude is an absolute monster, almost to his detriment because he jumped off sides a bunch of times against
Oh,
Texas.
Carolina's finally on the clock, Abdalla.
Hey, Carolina's
All
on
right,
the
the
clock.
draft has begun.
Yay, that's
This
good.
is great. Look
All
at
right.
that. We've got pictures of war rooms. This is fantastic.
And someone already tweeted it out.
Love it. Do you have it? Do you know who it is?
According to Shams Shrani,
Yeah, Shams from
Yeah,
the top
Shams
row.
breaking the news.
Yep,
Who does he have?
It looks like he was first.
Bryce Young will be selected
Okay.
by the Carolina Panthers, much to the surprise of absolutely no one, which is fine. So now the rest of the draft can commence, right? And if the Bears had the third pick, I wouldn't even be contemplating trading back. It'd be Will Anderson.
Right.
It'd be take Will Anderson at whatever position he's going. He can move all over the place. He moved all over the field for Alabama. He led the SEC in tackles for a loss and sacks 2 years ago. He was top 3 in the SEC in sacks and tackles for a loss the year before. I mean, the dude is an absolute monster. He played in the bowl game when he didn't have to and still forced an interception.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Like he was basically out
was
there in
absolutely
jeans
awesome.
and a t-shirt and still forced an interception. So to me, you have to take him. Like I don't see enough. Like unless someone gives you a crazy offer, another first-round pick in 2024, another second-round pick in 2024, maybe a second-round pick this year, then fine. You say, look, we can't outweigh the cost of what we're going to get back. It'd be dumb for us not to take all these picks to give up that kind of a player. And it depends on how many spots you're moving back.
So if quarterback goes 1, Bryce Young goes to Carolina. At 2, the Texans say they take C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
If Will Anderson goes to the Cardinals, I think it's almost a guarantee that then 3 quarterbacks go in the top 4.
Yes.
I think at 4 with the Colts, that's where you see Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, one of the two. And then within the first 4 picks, you get 3 quarterbacks. All of that plays into the hands of the Chicago Bears.
Oh, the best thing that happened to the Bears, besides trading when they traded back to 9, is that during the combine, Anthony Richardson solidified himself as a top 5 pick. That Anthony Richardson that there are now 4 quarterbacks instead of just 3. And if Hendon Hooker didn't tear his ACL, we might be talking about 5 quarterbacks that would go in the top 10. And we're still thinking that maybe someone jumps back in or some late team takes a shot and 5 quarterbacks do end up going in the first round. I can still see that happening because look, Hendon Hooker, I guess he tore the ACL. It's not as long of an injury in the NFL. He could be back. He could back someone up, learn for a year, someone that's got a veteran quarterback who you don't think they're going to re-sign, after this year. There's a lot of situations there, but that's best case scenario for the Bears. Absolute best case scenario is 4 quarterbacks go in the top 4. And then Seattle is then, met with the decision, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson. What do we do there? One of those guys is gone. Maybe Detroit takes a cornerback, because they have a need at cornerback and, their defensive line. So maybe they take Jalen Carter. And then you hope that one of the top defensive players falls to the Bears and Tyree Wilson. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, so the Bears at 9. Bears fans, when you try and figure out what would be the best fit. Now, we know the offensive line needs some help.
Yeah.
Defensively, on the defensive line, they need help as well. Also, weapons for the quarterback, wide receiver. Paris Johnson's a name that's out there. Jalen Carter's a name that's out there. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Is it smart for the Bears to get another weapon to add for Justin Fields offensively? Is that the way that they should go at 9?
I think so. I mean, I don't think you can, but it's also depends on everything, right? If Arizona stays and they decide to take Will Anderson, that means Seattle might take Jalen Carter, which means Detroit might take Tyree Wilson, which means the Raiders might take a cornerback, which means, the top defensive talent isn't there.
For sure.
And if no one wants to trade up with you and you can't move back to get an offensive lineman later, then I don't see why not, because it's twofold, right? One, I don't think you can have enough weapons for your quarterback. Like, it just makes everyone around you. We saw injury issues with Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney last year. Not everyone plays the full 17 games. You need to have depth at the position. Because at the end of the year, we had guys out there catching balls from Justin Fields that were making, their debut, So to me, you can't. Also, you have to look at the contract situation of Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, both guys that are free agents at the end of this season. Are you going to pay them both? If not, get an option that's cheap in a draft pick, and maybe you pay one of them. If Chase Claypool doesn't work out and he doesn't become, you gave up for him at the 32nd overall pick, then fine. you let him go and you let him walk. If Darnell Mooney wants too much money and he wants to be paid like a number one wide receiver when he's not a number one wide receiver, we've seen that Ryan Poles has a certain limit to how much he will spend, and then he moves on, right? That's why David Montgomery's not here anymore. That's why some of the top free agents didn't sign here, because he had a ceiling for cost for those players, and if they exceeded it, he wasn't going to make the move. He wasn't going to spend too much in free agency on those players. So I think it's in their best interest to sign a guy or to draft a guy in Jackson Smith and Jigba who will be here for the future. I think, we joked about this with a few of our fine college football friends when talking about the draft. Yeah. We are sitting here in the very middle of the Miller Lite Midway, right?
Yeah.
If I went half the room wants defense, half the room wants offense, and we're the two guys that want Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, that's kind of how it is.
And we're going to fight everyone.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's 300.
Because all the calls we've taken to the radio station, everybody that we've talked to, every mock draft you see the same thing. You see offensive line and you see defensive line. But I would love them to get another weapon for Justin Fields if the board falls that way. The board has to fall that way.
Connor Rogers, one of our football friends who we had on the Bleck and Abdalla show, he told us that he reminds him of Cooper Kupp.
Woo.
And if that's what the ceiling is for Jackson Smith and Jigba, I don't think you pass up on that. I think you continue to add to what Justin Fields has, and you continue to build. For those yelling the pick is in, it's Bryce Young. Shams had it 10 minutes ago. How about that?
Did I do a good? Was that a good chime?
No, you can barely hear it in here. This place is packed, by the way.
It is.
Shout out to everyone here at the Miller Lite Midway. This is a great time. Miller Lite, get out. Bleck and Abdalla, we're on YouTube Live tonight. Throughout the evening, we will be talking to former Bears and breaking down the NFL draft. Israel Adonijay will check in with us in about 12 minutes.
Yeah.
On our show, Bleck and Abdalla, weeknights on ESPN 1000, each night we have a song of the night.
Okay.
We can't do that for you right now.
We can't. Copyright
But we have
infringement.
better. We have Jay Moore from the Cap and Jay Hood Morning Show. He's DJing throughout the evening.
Shout
Jay
out.
Moore, take it away. We'll be back in 10 minutes with Israel Adonijay. Go ahead, Jay Moore.
It's Bryce Young, guys.
Great job.
You guys having fun?
whatever. Yeah.
I'm old and retired, man.
Hey, it's the Miller Lite Chicago Bears draft party brought to you by Miller Lite. We're at the Miller Lite Midway. It's Bleck and Abdalla. You can watch us tonight on YouTube Live. And how about this? Israel Adonijah is hanging out with the
Bears, make some noise! Let's go, baby. Let's go.
10-year vet, 9 years in a Bears uniform.
Yeah, baby.
Hell yeah. What's
Yeah.
going on? It's
Oh,
draft
man.
night.
Yeah, this is special, right? This is the time of year. The excitement's building.
Hope.
No, it's exciting always, right? Leading into the draft.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to be here and not have the pressure of having to perform during the season, right?
You're right. Whatever happens tonight, it doesn't really matter for you.
Yeah, I'm not going into training camp.
That's awesome. So you had a little bit of a different draft
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Drafted to the CFL. What was that like for you?
So I was drafted in the CFL, but I was expected to sign a free agent deal in the NFL. So I never actually went to my CFL team. I was in Saline, Michigan, and there was some talk around getting drafted, maybe third or fourth round. Came and went. Seventh round came, undrafted, and the Cleveland Browns called. I ended up signing a deal with the Cleveland Browns in free agency. Before the first preseason game in Cleveland, I broke my left ankle and went home injured. Jerry Angelo called me and invited me to come up to Chicago, sign me to a 1-week contract.
Wow.
And that 1 week turned into 10 years. It was a blessing.
That's
Well,
awesome.
you know, your entire career as a Bears player was like a guy that did everything.
Yeah.
Right? You helped out on special teams. When someone went down as a starter, you got your spot. You maximized it. I mean, I was at a lot of the games that you played. I believe I looked it up. 134 games in a Bears uniform.
Yeah.
You were stellar because you made big plays and
Thank
you
you.
contributed
Thank you.
to really good teams. That's what these fans want to see are
Yeah.
really good teams. You were a part of some really good teams here.
Amazing team. I mean, my years here with the Bears were one of the most special moments of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked hard together. Defensively, the culture that I was fortunate to be a part of was just amazing. I mean, we spent a lot of time in the classroom, in the locker room, going over the playbooks with these guys. They become your brothers, and to this day, those special relationships have been built. And we had a lot of fun, right? There's a lot of memories. Although we didn't get the championship, that was the dream.
Right.
Getting so close, as you look back, was just special in of itself.
Yeah.
We talked to Justin Jones earlier about the current team, and what did you see last year? Because they were in a lot of close games.
Yeah.
It's a lot of close games. There's a lot of one-score games, and it when you only win 3 games, there's a lot of opportunity for the team to quit on the year, right? But
Yeah.
they never did.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were always playing for Coach Eberflus. What did you take away from last year's team that they can carry over, some of the good that they can carry over into this year?
Well, when you have such a young team, you know, sometimes you don't know how to win those close games, right? It's about like pushing, finding the last little detail to execute. Winning those close games is about grit and execution down to the wire. As the team comes into this year, you know, we're expecting some of those guys that have been through that experience, learning, hey, when it comes down to the wire, you got to find a way to win the close ones, right? At the end of the season, when it's all tallied up, those wins, those W's count as full W's, right? So you got to find a way to win those close games. You cannot make mistakes down the wire, right? And I
Whoa! Whoa! That
Yo,
noise
easy,
you just
easy.
heard was the Arizona Cardinals.
So
raiding the
what
pick.
just happened is I believe Houston is moving up to 3.
Yeah.
So Houston took C.J. Stroud at 2.
wow.
So it went Bryce Young 1, C.J. Stroud 2, and Arizona was sitting at 3. I believe Houston has now moved back up.
Okay.
I think that's what just happened.
So Houston's moving up, and it looks like they're probably going to take Will Anderson. It looks like
That's a hell of a way to start your franchise.
that's a way to start the draft. With
Will
picks
Anderson,
number 2 and
C.J.
3.
Stroud. What did you see about Will Anderson in college?
I didn't see anything about Will Anderson in college. I don't watch any college football.
Well, he's a good defensive end
Okay.
from what I can tell from
Yeah.
Alabama. Yeah,
Nice.
so he's going to be a stud player. So we're talking about the Lovie Smith years.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of what we refer to it. On the
Yeah.
show, people want this group to get back to that standard.
Yes.
What was a part of that standard that you guys knew heading into the office every day, things that you had to accomplish to get to where you had to be?
Well, I think first it started in practice, right? You talk about things like the peanut punch,
Yeah.
right? Every practice, Peanut Tillman in practice was knocking out the ball, punching out the ball. Every day in practice, the front guys full sprint to the ball wherever it was. Every day in practice, the back seven, they're coming up to the line to fill, right?
Right.
It was just the standard was max effort, give everything you have, every practice, execution. And then in our locker room, it's like, hey, defensively, every game, we had to score 7 or score 6 or put our offense in position to score. That was a cultural rule. If we did not do that in the game, we got a negative on that, right? So the standard was really high, and you could see how it translated to how we played on Sunday. Just the commitment to excellence.
They're not booing you. Don't worry. They're not booing
Goodell,
you.
I
They're
know.
booing Roger Goodell. The pick is in for the Texans. The Texans are selecting. All right, come on, Roger. Let's get to
What's
it.
up, baby?
We're hanging out on YouTube
Oh,
Live right
my
now.
God. Just
The room is waiting for
give
Roger
us the name.
Goodell.
That's Will Anderson. All right,
All
roll
right.
time.
Will Anderson.
There you
All
go.
right.
Will Anderson goes to the Texans.
So speaking of Lovie Smith, how important is it? Because I want to relate Lovie Smith to Matt Eberflus in a way where Lovie Smith always had the world against us mentality.
Yeah.
Even though, like, you guys are like a 10-point favorite. Like, no one's picking against you. But for some reason, it was the world against us. And a lot of people, when Matt Eberflus took over, the hits principle was very important. And a lot of, the media and fans kind of made fun of it when they started losing. And it's like, I don't think they're hitting anybody right now.
Yeah.
How important is it to tune out the noise and really believe in what happens between the four walls of the locker room?
100%. Well, that's what great coaches do, right? A great coach has the ability to focus all the guys in that locker room on this single mission, this single vision. When you execute your best with your skill set at your position, and all I need you to do is just that. And then you get every guy to commit to just bringing his best to his skill set towards the common goal of winning every Sunday. That's how you win, right? It's week by week, and it starts Wednesdays at practice. Lovie Smith did a great job of getting guys to buy in, and I think what he really did well was he didn't treat every guy the same, right? Some guys you got to push them to produce. Some guys you got to praise them to produce, right? Knowing your player and the right switches to hit to get them to focus more and give more is a really, really important skill set, and Lovie did a great job of that.
We were talking to Justin Jones earlier, and we mentioned Green Bay, and we mentioned Aaron Rodgers now that he's a Jet.
Yes.
For Bears fans, how excited should they be now that Aaron Rodgers is heading to New York and no longer is in the division?
They're that excited.
They're excited. They're excited. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a talented, he's a special guy, right? So anytime you can have a team that you battle twice a year, downgrade at a position, right? I don't care who they get there. He's not going to be an Aaron Rodgers, right?
I hope not.
Right. He's not going to be an Aaron Rodgers.
No, you're right.
It's not going to happen.
No matter
right?
what, it's going to be less than what
It's going to be
They
less than
said
Aaron
there wouldn't be
Rodgers,
another Brett
right?
Favre.
Right. Listen, knock on wood. Don't.
I'm just hoping.
So for especially defensively,
right.
and we spend a lot of time on Aaron Rodgers, right? You can't let him go back into the left. If he gets back into the left, he throws strikes, right?
Right.
So getting somebody in there that's learning, picking things up, maybe not as sharp. There's going to be an advantage there to the house for the Bears.
Who's the best player you played with, and who's the best player you played against?
Oh man, well a ton of talent, right? I had Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Robbie Gould, Peanut Tillman. Like, there's a lot of talent there over the years. Devin Hester, right? It's a long list of guys that I had the fortune of going to the battle with every Sunday. Going against, one of my most challenging games was Larry Allen and Flozell Adams. It was young in my career. I was like 23 or 22. But I had to strap up my chin strap that day, because when those guys grab a hold of you, you're done. You're done.
when you think back to your days playing here at Soldier Field, what's the first game that comes to mind when you think back of your career? Nostalgic. What's something that comes to mind?
So, I mean, when I think of my time here at Soldier Field, a few things. One, my first sack, Ken Dorsey, San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
I think of my first time dressing,
Yeah.
right? Coming a kid from Nigeria to Canada,
Yeah.
free agency, now getting to be on the 53-man roster. That was a special moment.
Yeah.
I remember Bears Saints first drive down the field, getting a sack on Drew Brees to get him out of field goal range.
Yeah.
And then we were able to go to the Super Bowl that year. Like, it was just a real special moment. A lot of special moments out here on this field. And I just can't say enough about just how special Chicago's been to me.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I mean, we were in the south end zone for the Saints game, and when it started to snow, and it was obvious in the second half that we were all going to Miami.
Yes.
That
man.
to me in the last 20 years, I think what's interesting is for someone our age, we're millennials, the 85 Bears were before our time.
Yeah.
And so we respect it, but we weren't a part of it.
Yeah.
And that moment against the Saints, that was like our crowning achievement as fans.
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear you talk about that day and how it meant to you guys, because it meant a lot to all of us.
Yeah. Special.
I think what's cool too is about the generation of Bears players that you played with is everyone is kind of still around here, right?
Yeah.
Lance is still around.
Yes.
Alex Brown is still around. Robbie
Yeah.
Gold works with us. He's a teammate of ours. Jason McKee's a teammate of ours. Like, it's great that you guys still are all a part of Chicago because you guys meant so much to us as Bears fans and to everybody else here right now. Like, you could see it here. These are some of the best fans in the world.
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
The
yeah.
love is strong. And that's what's special about Chicago, right? You go to some of these other teams, these other markets, you play for the team, but there's guys that leave. I was in Cleveland before I came here. I went to Detroit for a year after here.
Yeah.
It's just different. The love in Chicago is unparalleled.
Well, it's all that anyone cares about here is the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is. There are Cub fans, there are White Sox fans, there's basketball guys, there's hockey guys, but we're all Bears fans.
Yeah.
And so it's something to rally around. And I also think the fact that like college football here isn't as big as other parts of the country, this is our college team.
Yeah.
We all support the Chicago Bears, and that's what makes it so special. So, Oh,
The
how about
Colts
that?
have selected Anthony Richardson.
All right.
All
So
right.
Will Levis still available.
Will Levis is still available.
And the Seahawks are at 5. We'll see if the Seahawks go for Jalen Carter.
That's the next Jalen Hurts.
I mean, Anthony Richardson was decent for a few couple of weeks. The completion percentage, when you're playing defense and you face a rookie in his first year, and like how much of a learning curve? Because fans, we say, oh yeah, there's a learning curve, but we don't really understand the learning curve from college to pro. Like, how vast is that learning curve?
It's a big difference. It's a steep learning curve. I mean, all the success in college, that's great. There might be one stud on that defense you're facing, and that guy might not even be at the level of the NFL, right? When you get in the NFL, you're lined up against 4 on the front. You think and in college, you see a lot of guys running away from that backside. They can pull away and make plays down the field. In the NFL, that backside end is hawking you down.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And everybody on the field can run. It's just a whole nother level until they get in a game and see the speed of it. Then they get a sense of it, and then they got to go back to the drawing board, right? And part of their coaching and their leadership is to help them get ready to understand, guys, this is going to be different from where you were. The other thing is you talk about the practice has changed. So that makes it harder for guys to pick up, where in practice we used to go full speed, a lot more contact. So now you got to kind of figure it out in game more than ever, like before we used to, when we used to practice, 7 days full pads.
Right.
Was there a quarterback you ever played against that, like, in their rookie year, their second year, you're like, this ain't, and then the third year, you're like, oh crap, he's got it. He figured it out. Damn it.
No one comes to mind. But over the years, I mean, there's a lot of studs. I remember Michael Vick week. That was always a week where it's like we did things for Michael Vick that we never practiced, just because we knew his speed and his arm are such outliers. Like, he's just a different guy, right? But yeah, it's always great just to especially new guys get out there and hopefully have a special day against guys who challenge struggle reading defenses.
Do you think you mentioned Peanut Tillman and how he practiced the peanut punch every day in practice? Should he make the Hall of Fame?
Oh, absolutely.
It's come up that maybe stat wise he doesn't have the interceptions, but the forced fumbles are out of control, and he started a trend that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
You watch any game in the NFL, and when it happens, they say it's the peanut punch.
That should be enough.
It's the peanut punch.
That should be enough to get in. Like
Well,
if a move is
and-
named after you,
Yes.
you should be in.
Well, and the Hall of Fame is for folks who set themselves apart from everyone else, right? And if you just look at that, I mean, Peanut did that. I mean, teams would literally plan, like, hey, when you catch the ball, hold on to it with your chin, both arms.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. He was his timing, his just execution of that was impeccable.
That's why I believe Hester should be in too.
Oh, 100%.
Hester should definitely
He's
be
another
in. He
guy.
changed the game. They changed the rules of the game
He
around
redefined
him.
the game. He's got to be in, right? A little disappointing with how that shook out this year, but
He's
we
still
get
got
it.
time.
He's
though,
got
He
time,
does have time,
but-
yeah. Especially in a unique situation where, like, he's the only one to have ever done what he's done.
Yeah.
Eventually, he'll get in.
Yes.
Because no one else is going to duplicate what he ever did. Okay, so you played for 10 years in the NFL.
Yep.
9 in a Bears uniform. What have you been up to lately for Bears fans to know? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so I've been busy. We have we're in the health and wellness business. We have a gym in the South Loop called Restore,
Yeah.
where I get to yell at people and get them in shape. My yelling days, no more football, but now I get to yell at our clients and help them achieve their health and wellness goals and dreams. We opened up a philanthropy hub here in the city that's focused on solving hunger, education, health issues across the city, called Impact House.
Sure.
So I'm just fortunate. I love Chicago. It's home. We talked about how special this city is. So now, post-career, to be able to be here and be a part of the community is great. We're working on our year 3 of the new Monsters of the Midway collector's cards with the Bears. That's been a special project to be a part of as well.
Yeah.
Those were so cool when they came out. I remember seeing them, and I'm like, oh man, these are great. It's for because you see the success of Marvel and all that kind of stuff, and it's like this is a perfect tie-in.
Yeah, it's our universe.
The way with Monsters of the Midway, it always fits in perfectly. It's such a great nickname too to play off of as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
But yeah, man, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out. Give it up for Israel Adon.
Let's go, Bears! Let's go.
All right, Bleck and Abdalla, we're on YouTube Live. We will be back before the Bears pick. Until then, Jay Moore from the Cap'n J Hood Morning Show is DJing for us. Hit it, Jay Moore. Lite, Chicago Bears draft party.
Hello,
Black and Abdalla
Bears
at the Miller Lite
fans.
Midway. This place is packed. We're on YouTube Live.
Can't hear anything.
We are a pick away from the Chicago Bears. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock with the 8th pick. The Bears are sitting at 9. Tyree Wilson goes to the Raiders. Abdalla, Jalen Carter is still available if the Bears want him.
There's a lot still available. There's a lot of options still available. Jalen Carter being the biggest one, literally and figuratively. Jalen Carter is still there.
Yeah.
And, you know, unless right now the Falcons take him, but we've seen a ton of rumors from the Falcons, like as wild ones as Bijan Robinson. They've been tied to Jalen Carter. There's Miles Murphy still out there. There's other offensive linemen still out there. So there are a ton of options right now. I think here's what I could say. If Jalen Carter is taken by the Falcons or someone trades up for him, the Bears should probably trade back.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, you could also look at the other players who are available. It's not just Jalen Carter. I mean, Christian Gonzalez is available at the moment.
Is.
Peter Skoronski, who is a local kid, still available from Northwestern. Offensive lineman. Broderick Jones, available. Almost
Robinson.
all of the names that have been talked about for the Chicago Bears, they're all available at the moment except for Paris Johnson.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's been selected.
And since he's the best, like if he was available, I would say, okay, draft him. He's the best offensive lineman on the board. That's a cornerstone for your offensive line. Take him right there. But because you're debating between a tackle who might play guard and a guy who, you know, Darnell Wright had second-round grades until 2 weeks ago. Did he play more games? What happened? Did he grow?
Well, I mean, maybe
did he get bigger?
Maybe in the meetings with the teams, maybe his pro day and that stuff.
But the tape is out there.
No, I know the tape's out there.
The tape is so. To me, I would trade back. I would get more picks. I would trade back. Maybe someone else. If you don't like Carter and someone else wants him, have them jump up and take Carter from you. That's fine. You know, because now we know he's not going to be a problem with the Lions, right? Now we know because the Lions traded back. We now know that he's not going to be there unless he falls all the way down to where the Lions are picking. Where are they picking now? 12? Where they pick at 12? Yeah. Which I don't think he will. I'm surprised he's still available, to be honest. But enough movement has taken place that he's now gone.
So far, no movement up the board for a quarterback.
No.
I mean, so far we saw C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young go 1 and 2 like we expected.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Richardson to the Colts at 4. No team has jumped up to grab a quarterback.
Hey, call the Titans. Say, do you want Will Levis? Call the Commanders. Say, do you want Will Levis? Trade up. Why don't you give us Chase Young in the pick and swap picks, and we'll figure something out else, some other compensation, whatever. There are other teams that would still be interested in Will Levis that I think you could convince someone to jump up to 9.
Yeah, and for the Bears, they're really sitting in the spot of opportunity. That's the way it looks, right? Because Ryan Poles made the trade from 1 to go to 9. You get DJ Moore, but also you now have an opportunity here to add someone who's an team this season. and so when you look at the options that are there, if Jalen Carter's there, it's going to be hard to pass up. What do you see?
Jalen Carter's going to be there. If we're tipping picks here.
Who's the Falcons taking?
Well, am I allowed to get for the room?
Yeah,
is the room allowed? Am I allowed to pick? If you don't want to hear who it is,
people aren't listening
cover your ears.
Go ahead.
The Falcons will be the first team to select a running back.
Oh no!
In the 2023 NFL Draft, as Bijan Robinson will be an Atlanta Falcon. Jalen Carter's there.
Who's that? Shams on that one?
Albert Breer, friend of the station, a teammate of ours.
Captain J Hood.
Yeah,
Tuesday. Fantastic.
The highest drafted running back in 5 years since Saquon Barkley went 2nd overall in 2018.
That's incredible. All right, so Atlanta is on the clock. The internet is telling us that they will take Bijan Robinson, who is an absolute stud.
Yes,
absolute stud.
Yeah.
The discussion about Robinson isn't is he good or not.
Yeah.
It's do you take a running back at that value?
Yeah.
Is that someone you take at that spot in the top 10?
Well, I think he's different. You know, he's built different. He can catch very well. They used him a lot in the slot. They used him a lot out wide. Like, he is a difference maker on different levels than just pounding the rock and running the football, which is why a few weeks ago, when you were at your palatial estate in Mexico, I talked about the Bears and the possibility of Bijan Robinson because people were talking about it and saying, hey, Montgomery's not here anymore. You need a difference maker. You need a running back that can catch. You need someone who's being compared to the top running backs like Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, and that's who this is. And now, not a problem. I'm very surprised that Jalen Carter is still there. We talked for months since this trade was completed that Jalen Carter is not going to be there. He's not going to be a problem. But I guess where Greeny was right.
You're right.
He's there, and the Bears have a huge decision to make. We heard from Ryan Poles in the pre-draft, stuff around the combine, saying that he would need to talk to his owner. He would need to talk to President Kevin Warren about making a decision on a player that has the off-the-field issues like Jalen Carter. And it's not just the drag racing that led to the unfortunate deaths of his friends and teammates. It's the showing up to your pro day out of shape and not being able to finish your drills. It's the taking plays off during games. He was on, and Jonathan Hood has said it, he's a diehard Georgia Bulldogs fan, watched every Jalen Carter game, that there's so many studs on that defense that it can be twofold. One, you look better than you actually are. Two, you can take plays off.
I'm guessing if Jalen Carter is selected by the Bears, this room is going to erupt.
This room is going to explode.
I mean, this place is packed. There are a lot of people in here at the Miller Lite Midway. We're having a great time. Shout out to Miller Lite for having us.
Hold on. Wrong feed. Wrong feed. I don't control it. I'm just told this guy's looking at me like I control it.
We don't control the buttons. We're just hanging out. As Roger Goodell is about to announce the pick in Kansas City.
It's Bijan Robinson, guys.
People are really excited to find out what's going to happen here. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube Live tonight. We have a mega cast. Cap's in the south end zone. We're told that Cap is very cold.
He's cold.
He's very cold.
Guys, it's Bijan Robinson. It's a running back. It's Bijan. Hey! I told you guys.
All right.
You think I'm lying?
How did you know that?
You think I'm lying?
Who told you?
You guys think I'm lying? Man.
All right, so here's the situation. The Bears are on the clock. Bijan Robinson goes to the Falcons.
Yep.
Best available right now. Jalen Carter, Christian Gonzalez, Peter Skoronski, Will Levis, Broderick Jones. Those are the best available on ESPN.com right now.
If I'm the Bears, if I'm Ryan Poles, and I'm comfortable with Jalen Carter and the off-the-field issues, I'm taking Jalen Carter. We talked about this. All right. All right. Well, I mean, if you guys want Goodell to tell you, that's fine too.
So we're getting news. If you're watching on YouTube Live, you already know because I assume you're sitting at home on the internet.
You're on the internet.
For those in the room, it seems as if there is a trade at 9.
There has been a trade
with the Eagles.
If you want to hear it, listen
what
up.
It looks like. We're seeing Bears-Eagles trade. That's what it looks like.
Absolutely.
The Bears and the Eagles have trade. So the Eagles are at 9 and the Bears are at 10.
So to me, this means that the Eagles were rumored earlier this week today to trade up for Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
This is probably saying, hey, Ryan Poles, calling the Eagles and saying, hey, if you want him, we're going to take him unless you give me an offer for a few future picks. I want more picks. And the Eagles said, okay, fine. We don't need a lot of them. We were just in the Super Bowl. We have a lot of great players. So they trade up. They're going to take Jalen. I don't know this yet or not. They're probably going to take Jalen Carter, which means the Bears are now in position for another defensive lineman that's still out there, an offensive lineman that's out there, a corner that's still out there. Jackson Smith and Jigba still out there. Jinx.
He's still there. That
So
would be nice.
this is something that the Bears, I'm not surprised that he wanted more picks, right?
Yeah, especially if there's a team that absolutely wanted him. I will say there will be years of pointing out that the Bears could have had Carter. If he turns into a Hall of Fame player, it's something people will remember. Remember, because like Aaron Donald, the Bears wanted Donald. They just got scooped by one pick.
Yes. So the Eagles traded with the Bears for the 9th pick. They flip spots. The Bears get an extra 4th-round pick next year.
All right.
So not a pick for this year, a 4th-round pick for next year, which is fine. You're creating more picks. This is something that we talked about being a 2-year pro. We're in like year 2 of a 3-year process, right? Compete next year and then be that next team for next year when you're trying to compete for the playoffs. So this is not going to be the complete form of the Bears this season. I've got no problem getting a 4th-round pick next year.
So do you think it's more of a move to take an offensive lineman or to take like a defensive end like Nolan Smith or someone that's on the defensive line who maybe you could get a little bit later?
I think that they did their homework on this is more of a statement on Jalen Carter than it is on anything else. I think that they did their homework on Jalen Carter, and a second-year GM in Ryan Poles isn't.
It's risk reward, right?
It's too risky to tie your first-round pick to Jalen Carter because he didn't have one last year.
Well, and the Eagles are a championship contending team,
and they can deal with it.
Well, they can deal with it. Also, that makes them super scary if he's the real deal.
Absolutely. For sure it does. For sure it does.
You know, like,
and you know what? If you're playing with as good of a defensive line as they have, you can take plays off.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you go from Fletcher Cox to Jalen Carter, perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
And they have selected Jalen Carter.
Yeah, so the pick is in for the Eagles. It's online. Jalen Carter will be the pick. As the Eagles move up, the Bears are now sitting at 10. And the Bears are waiting to be on the clock. This place is packed.
Yes, it's packed. I can't hear anything. I hope we're still talking Bears. But this is going to be something that not only are we going to be taking phone calls all year about this, whenever Jalen Carter has a sack and the Bears perform poorly defensively, it's going to be like, look, we could have had that guy. Yeah. Look, we could have had that guy. So this is a risky move in both ways by Ryan Poles to not take him or to take him. There's equal risk in both of them.
Yeah, and I could see Bears fans being upset on moving off of a guy who was talked about as the number 1 prospect coming into this draft cycle.
Unless he's a guy that you did your homework on and you believe the motor's not there and you believe he's the guy that takes plays off and you believe that he's a guy that once he gets his money, he's not going to, perform as he did in college. So there's a lot of risk there, and they weren't comfortable. It'll be an interesting post-first-round press conference for Ryan Poles, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. But, I mean, there are still quality players on the board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As Roger Goodell steps to the podium. Guys, it's Jalen Carter. I'm telling you right now, it's Jalen Carter. You don't need to yell to turn it. It's Jalen Carter. I told you. All right. So the Bears are on the clock, and we'll be back.
All right. We'll be back with reaction.
Oh, look at that room. Look at that room. Oh, hugs and hand pounds. Hugs and hand pounds. That's not good. All right.
All right, Miller Lite, Chicago Bears draft party. Bleck and Abdalla here. Are we on? All right, Miller Lite draft party, Miller Lite Midway.
Hello.
Bleck and Abdalla.
How about that?
Pat, the designer, is here with us.
Hi,
Check
Pat.
out
What's good,
the new Chicago Bears podcast on the ESPN Chicago app. All right, Darnell Wright is the pick, guys, at 10. Your thoughts?
I'm going to be honest with you. You can't sit there and complain about protecting a quarterback all season who had to run for his life and then be upset when the Bears go out and get a guy who stopped the guy who was taken at the top of this draft in Will Anderson and who didn't allow a sack in, how many was it, 361 pass blocks or whatever it is. They want Justin Fields to be a passer here. You got to get a guy that knows how to pass block. I like this pick. I think this is a great pick, and you get the 4th pick next season. I'm on board for it.
Okay, so that's fair. In defense of that, what if you're someone that doesn't say that you absolutely have to protect the quarterback?
Yeah.
Because that's the camp I'm in, and I think we need weapons for the quarterback.
I go to that same summer camp.
You got those
creates
already.
a better pass offense.
But isn't DJ Moore a weapon?
He is, but you can't just have one.
Is Darnell Mooney not a weapon anymore? Darnell Mooney was a 1,000-yard receiver when he had a number one on the team where people could focus on.
Good slot guy, I think.
Slot guy. I like him.
He's a high 3.
But here's the thing. You got a high 3 and you got Chase Claypool. At a minimum, we're coming into the season with 2 guys that can catch. Justin can still make plays on his own.
Yeah.
That is still an ability. You want to be able to utilize that, but you don't want him to have to utilize that to the point where his body is cramping up on the field.
I thought you should have traded back again. I feel like you could have gotten a guy like Darnell Wright later.
I do agree with that.
Like
I think he would have been there in the 15th.
I think, but I mean, look, we don't know if that was available to them or not. But I feel like if you take the wide receiver there in Jackson Smith and Jigba, it sets you up because yes, you mentioned Darnell Mooney and yes, you mentioned Chase Claypool. Both those guys are free agents at the end of the year.
Facts.
But you're not going to pay them both.
I mean, even if you come into this situation again, you've got Deontay Foreman, who was a decent pass catcher out of the backfield.
Yeah.
You've also got Cole Kmet, who seemed like he had a little bit of a breakout season. And again, the main thing that we got to remember here, we have Justin Fields. The goal of this season is not to see if Justin Fields can be a runner again. The goal of this season is to see if Justin Fields can be our quarterback of the future. You don't do that by going out. Now, I do agree with you, right? Weapons help him. Joe Burrow did it without tackles.
Yep.
Pat Mahomes
Yeah.
did it without tackles. I need Justin Fields to be one of those guys. But I'm not mad at the insulate my quarterback situation that Philly did with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and obviously, like, Jalen Hurts is a really good example of, like, how you bring along a young quarterback. The difference, though, with the Eagles and the Bears is the Eagles were starting with a point of, we have a great offensive line, we have a great defensive line, and now let's figure this out with a young quarterback. They got the young quarterback, and then they went out and found those weapons. They made a trade for Brown. They also draft Smith, and then it, like, all came together last year. So there are different ways to kind of go about it. I think from our standpoint, in today's NFL, I feel as if reliable pass catchers make, if not as big of a difference as far as the health of your young quarterback or being able to keep them healthy because of the pass protection as a good, sturdy offensive line. And I think that's also where we could get into a conversation about, like, was the offensive line really that bad last year? I thought that they were pretty good in some spots.
They were ranked 16th.
No, but they were good
at the end of the
run.
year.
In pass pro, though?
They were
overall.
okay. They were okay.
When they were all healthy, when they had that mini bye that everybody talked about for the Patriots game, and were scoring over 25 points a game for like 5-6 games straight before Justin got hurt, that offensive line was fully healthy, and they were playing well. And they were protecting Justin Fields. They were run blocking. They were doing all that stuff. It was fine. I don't think you needed to use a top 10 pick. You could have been fine taking there's depth at center in the second round. There's depth at guard in the second round. You've got offensive. Plus, also, look, I said it for months leading up to this that I trust Ryan Poles to find offensive linemen. He's a former offensive lineman. He found Braxton Jones in the 5th round. You can find dudes if you're the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, it's kind of I don't know. I just felt like you could have done more with the pick than take Darnell Wright.
I think here's...
And he might be a cornerstone for the next decade. I might be wrong. I'm not mad at the pick. I'm mad at where the pick was taken. I guess.
I can agree with that, but I think that's a now thing, right? That's a right now thing.
The pick was made 8 minutes ago.
8 minutes ago, you know what I mean? But here's the thing, right? We don't talk about where a guy was picked if he turns into an All-Pro. We don't talk about where a guy was picked if he turns into a guy that keeps your quarterback off his back for his entire career.
Of course.
If he's here for 10 years and he's a stud, we won't
care.
We won't talk about it.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. Here's what we can say about Darnell Wright that we couldn't say about most of the linemen we took. He's the best right tackle in this draft by a lot.
And he also doesn't have arm length concerns, which is
He's
what
not a T-Rex
Peter
arm.
Skoronsky, there were concerns there. So I'm glad that they took the guy who's a more capable athlete.
And Fitz, here's the thing. It's about we want the best name, but it's also about scheme fit. It's also about how a guy's able to come in and mesh with the guys that are in there, what his work ethic is, right? There's a lot of things that we don't get to see on just the numbers or what the coaches are telling us. I think that this is a pick here where we can say we got the best at something. We don't say that very often in Chicago.
Yeah. So when you look at the rest of the draft, what's the number one need you need Ryan Poles to go after here with the next pick that the Bears have?
I mean, listen, you still do have that need at defensive line. There's no doubt about it, right? I would have loved to see Jalen Carter in a Bears jersey. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I wouldn't have been high-fiving with you guys right along if we got him. But I do think that you also have to address what the entirety of this team is missing on the offensive side. We talk about the starters. We always talk about the starters. Our starters can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Tevin Jenkins has been healthy for how long?
The problem is the depth on this team. He's at every position. Look at the line, look at wide receiver, look everywhere. The depth on this team is not good. As now Peter Skoronsky is going to be a Tennessee Titan. The run is coming on that, and then the Lions are doing something
tomorrow
weird.
on the Chicago Bear podcast on the ESPN Chicago app, who's your guest?
We're going to have Tommy Waddle on the Chicago Bears podcast tomorrow. So tune in with us on that.
Great. We'll be checking it out. It's Bleck and Abdalla from the Miller Lite Midway. We'll be back in a little bit.
Peace.
Need a left tackle, not a right tackle.
They believe in Tevin. Or not Tevin, they believe in Braxton.
They don't believe in Tevin.